and welcome to the Planning Commission meeting. I'll call this meeting to order, and if I could have everyone stand for the flag salute. I do have a flag for our direction. Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. All right. If we could have a roll call, please.
Of course, thank you. Chair Sanchez.
Here.
Commissioner Quill.
I'm present.
Commissioner Flores.
Here.
Commissioner Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Lewis.
Present.
Commissioner Chang.
Here.
Commissioners Guerrero and Lopez are excused, and Commissioner Morales will be attending later in the meeting. We have quorum.
Perfect. Thank you, Stephanie. All right. At this time, I will go over the ground rules for the meeting. We will first hear a report from staff. Then we will open it up to public comment. We will hear from the applicant. And then from there, we will be able to go from ward to ward, hearing from the commissioners on the issues. Once we've gone through all the wards, we'll go one more time, and by just a show of hands, if you have additional questions for anything. Does anyone, before we begin, have any conflict of interest for any of these items? If not, then we will continue on to the consent agenda. Oliver?
Yes, Commissioners, good evening. Item number 1 on tonight's consent calendar are the minutes for the meeting of February the 9th, 2021. They are complete as submitted. Thank you, and our recommendation is for approval. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Oliver.
You're welcome.
At this time, I will open public hearing for item number 1, minutes. If anyone has any comments. If not, then I will close public comment for this item, and I will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read into the record.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Lewis, did you have a chance to review the meeting for the last? You weren't here at that meeting, so.
No, I did see it on the. I saw the recording of it, but.
Is that okay, Albert?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Stephanie, if we could have a vote roll call?
Of course. Chair Sanchez.
Yes.
Commissioner Quill.
I will abstain as I was not at the last meeting.
Commissioner Flores.
Yes.
Vice Chair Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis.
Yes.
And Commissioner Chang.
Yes.
The item passes.
Perfect. Thank you, Stephanie. All right. Moving on to public hearing items. The Planning Commission will first hear a report from staff, and then the public hearing will be open. The applicant will have an opportunity to speak. Next, members of the public will be allowed to speak. After all have spoken, the applicant will be allowed to respond. The public hearing will then be closed, and the Planning Commission will begin deliberations and make a decision. All actions except general plan amendments and amendments to the Municipal Development Code are final actions unless an appeal is filed and a fee paid within 15 days to the Community Development Department. If you challenge the resultant action of the Planning Commission in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described in this agenda, or in written correspondence delivered to the Community Development Department at or prior to the public hearing. All right, continuing on to item number 2. If we could have the staff report, please.
Yes, Commissioners. Item number 2 is conditional use permit 19-02. It's for the property located on the northeast corner of West Union Street and North Medical Center Drive It's a proposal for a wireless telecommunications facility. At this time, the applicant has agreed or has requested a continuance. We are resolving some of the conditions of approval. Therefore, we'd like to continue this item to the meeting of August the 13th, our next regular meeting. Because it's
April the
public hearing-
13th.
April the 13th.
13th, I'm sorry.
April.
And even though it's a public hearing, so we'd have to open it and then continue the meeting if you so choose to. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Oliver.
You're welcome.
So I will, at this point, open public hearing for item number 2. Since it is going to be continued on to the next meeting, I think we'll reserve our questions for that time. And then I will close public hearing at this point.
Sure.
Oh,
Can we
yes.
ask Stephanie if we received any public comment?
Oh, yes. Stephanie, any public comments on this?
Not for this item.
Okay, wonderful. So I will close public hearing for this item, and I will entertain a motion to continue this to the next meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to continue agenda item number 2 until the next scheduled meeting in April.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, we have a second. Stephanie, if we could have a vote roll call?
Chair Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Quill,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis,
Yes.
and Commissioner Chang.
Yes.
The item is continued.
Perfect. Thank you, Stephanie. All right, going on to item number 3. If we could have the staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 3 this evening is conditional use permit 21-01. Next, please. This is a request to develop a new drive-through restaurant. It's a property located on the southeast corner of Hospitality Lane and Waterman Avenue, just under 1 acre in size for the property. It's in the Commercial Regional 3 and Transit Overlay District. The aerials. So as I said, it's the property outlined in red. This is part of a larger development. Maybe familiar with the Golden Corral property developed just on the south end of this site. This would be one of the parcels immediately north of it, fronting Hospitality Lane. Next slide. And as mentioned, it is in the Commercial Regional 3 along Hospitality and then abutting the flood channel. And next. The specific project in front of us this evening is the development of a 2,050 square foot restaurant, as mentioned, with drive-through. The site is providing 24 parking spaces on their parcel specifically, which does exceed their requirement, being 21 spaces. But it is part of a larger development as well, so there's shared parking between both properties. And likewise, the circulation and access for the site, both off of Hospitality and Waterman, is shared between the larger development. And this is a photo of the existing site, as you can see, of the other restaurant building at the rear of the property. The area where they're proposing development is just kind of to the center left of this image, basically right behind the pylon sign. You can see the existing drive along along Hospitality that would be the primary access point for the restaurant, and then the shared drive that goes back onto the property. And as mentioned, the upper left of this site plan shows that shared two-way driveway onto Hospitality Lane. Thank you. And then the restaurant building would be set just behind that, to the east end of the site, closest to the flood channel, and would have the drive-through kind of accessed from the south end of the site, wrapping along the side of the flood channel. And as you can see, there's kind of conceptual development to the west in the final parcel for this site, and then all of the integrated circulation. This is kind of the concept elevation for the restaurant building. This is kind of their newer look that they're proposing, a little bit more of a modern look, kind of give a nice, kind of attractive frontage to Hospitality Lane there. And then finally, the landscape plan. As you can see, landscaping all throughout the site, heavy landscaping along the drive-through, kind of abutting the channel just to improve that a little bit. And then specifically the big bulb out along Hospitality to help create an attractive streetscape there. And then, throughout the park. And our recommendation this evening would be recommending to adopt Resolution 2021-005. That would be finding the project is categorically exempt as a new construction of a small structure, and approving CUP 2101 for the project based off the findings and subject to the recommended conditions. And with that, I'll end my presentation. I know we do have the applicant if they would like to say anything as well. If you do have any questions.
Perfect. Thank
Yes.
you, Travis.
I,
So at this
Okay.
point, I will
Yeah.
actually open public hearing for item number 3. And Stephanie, do we have any public comments?
Not for this item.
No. Okay. So does the applicant have any additional comments they want to add to the report before we begin with the commissioners?
Not at this time from the architectural side.
Perfect. So then I will go from ward to ward, starting with Commissioner Quill. Do you have any comments?
No, other than it looks like a nice project. That property has been vacant down there for quite some time, and I think it would be a nice addition to the area. Looks like a nice layout and nice landscaping. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Quill. Commissioner Flores, any comments?
I have a couple of questions. Can I get a better sense of, so it looks like, is the property or the parcel in front of Golden Corral still going to be undeveloped? Okay, got it. Because historically, I think that's been like a pumpkin patch and a Christmas tree sort of situation there. So I'm wondering if there's been any conversations about how that use will impact if shared parking will be allowed, if that happens again with the tree selling and the pumpkin patch situation.
Yes. So this is the property where those temporary uses have historically occurred. I know they generally took up the majority of the property back well before the Golden Corral was developed. Since then, I know they have continued, but it's been a little bit of a smaller scale since half the site was developed with other means. Long term, generally speaking, this site specifically is not the hard corner where they've been primarily located. This is east of that, closest to the flood channel. So they'll still have that big pad area available. I know long term that the property does have plans to develop that out, but it's an iterative process. As we would go forward, and as we've done even since the Golden Corral developed, when they do come in to do pumpkin patch, tree farm, anything like that, through the TUP process, we would look at parking and just ensure whether they had shared agreements. I couldn't say where they have that right now, but that's something that's kind of a case-by-case, event-by-event basis.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah. I think that's all my questions. Glad to see more trees.
Perfect. Thank you, Commissioner Flores. Commissioner Jones, any comments?
None at this time. I've reviewed the agenda packet and I think everything is in line. I'll be supporting this project tonight. Thank you to the applicant and staff for all their hard work.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Lewis, any comments? Oh, I'm sorry. If you could unmute yourself.
there we go. Yeah, just a couple there. I have, so I visited that site earlier today, and the egress and the driveway that goes in and out there, I think is sufficient for two-way traffic, because that one driveway looks like it's going to be serving multiple business there in that area. But the thing that I think concerned me was currently that is a area that is when you're leaving out of that parcel, there is right turn only. And my thought is there going to be something? I was looking through the site plans, or put in place a medium, some restrictive post, something because I'm concerned that people are going to make a left turn there, and that's going to be somewhat, that can cause some problems. Did we look into that to see?
If I may, Commissioner, yes, we did. There's actually a condition, or there'll be signage where it's right turn only at the exit.
Right. So the one that's there now is going to change. I mean, it's the arrow. It says, it's indicates for most automobile drivers that a right turn is only there, but it can be missed if they're not really. I mean, what I'm saying is they're going to really do a little bit more to ensure that that's a clear. That's the only clear option they have when leaving that parcel.
Well, the challenge, if I may, and Alex, maybe you can add to that, is that there isn't room to add a median there. So I mean, it's just a striping. So that's our limitations to improvement. So our goal is to make sure that the signage is well enough to inform that you have to turn right only. I mean,
Commissioner Lewis, if I may, my name is Alex Kishta. I'm the city engineer for the city of San Bernardino. So what we will have is, instead of that arrow with the circle and no turn, we will have a sign that says no right turn only. So it will spell it out, and then we will look at the design of the driveway to, sometimes there is what we call a pork chop that can be like added to force the people to make that. You cannot force them because they always will do whatever they're going to do, but we will make sure that is, at least from our perspective, an engineering point, that it will be respected.
That answers that question there.
Thank you, sir.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Commissioner Chang, any questions?
None. Looks like a good project, and I approve the project. No comments for me. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Commissioner Chang. So I do have a few questions. And could you, I saw that there was definitely a lot more detail in these images about the landscaping, and I wanted to say thank you for adding that. But there was no mention of security cameras anywhere on the conditions of approval. I know usually there are, but there wasn't any at this item.
Typically the security cameras and those measures are for alcohol related uses. So we have our convenience stores, kind of thing. This is your drive-through, as you know, it's a Taco Bell. So it's not typically something that we require security cameras or some of the other measures that we do for our ABC related conditional use permits. So you are correct. That was not included in the conditions of approval.
Okay. Yes, I was wondering why there was that little discrepancy there. And then from the images, I did see that the trees, they looked quite young. Are we having mature trees being put in? That way they'll kind of match a little bit the surrounding area of just having, that image of already grown trees and not little baby ones.
I think typically they are, it's harder to transplant the mature trees onto the site and really have them root and take. So usually they are generally going to be newer plantings, but we do have the variation in sizing so that we can still have kind of more of the specimen trees at the along the street and in the primary focal areas.
Okay, perfect. And then when would this project start, really?
I will actually see if the architect wants to chime in on that. I know they've been very eager, but they might be able to provide some additional detail.
Yeah, this is Jonathan with Tate. We plan on starting right away. I know, Travis, we spoke out to you getting these conditions as quickly as possible so we can start at risk with our construction documents to get these in. So we're moving full speed ahead on this.
Wonderful. I mean, it looks just like my fellow commissioners mentioned, it looks like a great project. And I mean, that land has been vacant for quite a long time. And so I really enjoy that you are making use of this project. So thank you. And I'll go one more time around. Does any of the commissioners have any further comments?
Madam Chairman, I do.
Yes.
Thank you. As Commissioner Lewis pointed out, is the, and I meant to say something about that also, is the entrance and exit out of that property. You had mentioned some sort of a T-bone or some sort of exit way or pork chop method that you can run the traffic to the east. Has that been given some consideration?
Well, when we get the plans, we will look at it and see if that is feasible. Remember, they're trying to have as much as they can wider driveway for cars to get in and out. So if that restricts them because of whatever is going on, maybe there's a power pole, they cannot expand their driveway more than what it is.
Okay.
But we'll work with them. We will make sure that our condition has been met and people are again, even with anything that we put in there, people still can, if they choose to do the wrong move. But we will try as much as we can get that to be restrictive enough, and we will work with the applicant and his engineer when they submit their plans.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
Not a problem.
Yeah, that is a pretty busy
It's
intersection
crucial.
at certain times.
Understandable.
So, yeah, that's very, very important that we head that traffic to the east. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Got you, sir. No problem.
Right. Any other questions from commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Lewis.
As we are, it is my belief that the whole goal here is to bring our fine city and make it look beautiful and all that good stuff. But we also have technical things that we want to, as we move forward, want to put in place. And with the current goals of the EPA, those fine people, are we installing, I didn't see it in the site plan or anything, like perhaps charging stations, stuff like that for, green cars, for the lack of a better word.
Our development code does not require that at this time, so that, as you may have heard, we're doing our general plan, our development code update. Those are things that we are going to look at for new standards moving forward. At this time, we do not have requirements for that.
Not requirements. Okay. All right. Thank you.
If we have no other comments, I will close public hearing for this item, and I will entertain a motion.
I will make a motion that we approve staff, make a motion that we adopt resolution 2021-005, approving conditional use permit 21-01, based on the finding and facts of the conditions of approval. So I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
We have a second. Stephanie, if
I
we could
second.
have a roll call.
Chair Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Quill,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis,
Yes.
and Commissioner Chang.
Yes.
The item is approved.
Congratulations, Mr. Weber.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right.
This is Jasmine Patan. I'll be the franchisee and the owner of the land as well. So thank you for your time and look forward to being in the community Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
All right, continuing on to item number 3. If we could have the staff report, please. Or 4.
Yes, thank you. Item number 4 this evening is development permit type P 20-10 and minor exception 2101. Sue's request to construct a new commercial retail building. It's a property located at 3191 North E Street, which is on the southeast corner of E and Marshall Boulevard. It's about 0.8 acres in size, has 2 parcels currently, and it's in the CG1 zone and the transit overlay district. As you can see, property, as mentioned, highlighted in red as before, on the southeast corner. Does back up to some residential, which is the purpose of the Type P development permit. As I did mention, it is in the transit overlay. It's a little hard to see in this image, but the 2 parking lots that you see on the north side of Marshall are the two of the park and ride facilities, and that's where that bus stop is located. And as mentioned, it is in the commercial general zoning district, which all 4 corners of this intersection are, and then does back up to some residentially zoned property on the rear of the property on the east side. So this building specifically is about 10,600 square feet. Being on the corner, it would have driveway access from both Marshall Boulevard and E Street. And the purpose of the exception that we're looking at this evening, property, as it is required in our current code, does require 35 parking spaces based off the square footage of the site. The applicant has requested that minor exception for a small reduction to the parking to reduce it by 3 spaces, to provide 32. That does fall within the 10% discretion for exceptions that the code does grant the director. And we did look at this when we were considering that request and felt that, given the proximity to the transit station itself and the park and ride facilities, the type of retail building that's going in that would service this neighborhood, and then both the design of the site, trying to lean into kind of the pedestrian-oriented ideals of that transit overlay, that it did meet the intention of that area. It was hitting kind of all the right checkpoints, and that reduction was. So this is the site currently. This is just kind of looking at both street frontages from the corner. As you can see, currently the majority of it is a vacant site. All the way to the far right, there's one old, used to be a residential structure, but it's currently being used for commercial purposes, that would be demolished as part of the property. And then you can see the mix of residences on the east side. It's kind of the left side of the image. One thing I do want to note, along those residences, and you'll see this in the site plan as well, kind of the kind of grouping of assorted walls and extensions of those walls would be replaced with a brand new 8-foot tall block wall that would screen this property from that residential use, or from those residential uses rather. And this is just looking from Marshall, just to the north of the site, kind of looking down where you can see a bit more of the East Street frontage. And then all the way at the rear of the site is that structure that would be demolished as part of the project. And here is the site plan. Being that it is in the transit overlay, one of the big things that we did work with them on was to get the building up on the street. That really does kind of, like I said, it leans into the pedestrian-oriented design. And then as a kind of a next step there, the building has been oriented, maybe a little bit hard to see, but on the southwest corner of the building, that was where the entrance was put. So it's not entirely fronting the street. It's not entirely fronting the parking lot. It's kind of a mix, so that it services both, but it creates a little bit more activity on that streetscape instead of turning everything to the rear of it. And next slide. And then these are the proposed elevations, kind of typical of some of the other facilities that they've built in the city here. A little variation on the coloring. And then you can see that glassed area on the 2 corners of this, that is that entry, kind of that corner cut entry that would be fronting the street. So your lower elevation would be what is on E Street. And then one thing that we did work with them on to help break up the facade a little bit was to put in kind of the trellising and the lattice and the landscaping that would kind of climb on the sides of the building all around the perimeter, so that'll kind of make a little bit more of an attractive frontage to the building for those along the street. And then this is our proposed landscaping plan. As you can see, the larger landscaped areas along the street, still even in front of the building. That's all within that parkway area. And then, to the south of the site for their water retention purposes. Trees spread throughout, both on the street and in the parking area. And then one thing I do want to make note of is along the right side of this image, that's that area abutting the residential. I did mention there would be that 8-foot block wall constructed. But in addition to that, in the landscaped area along the wall, they are proposing some kind of dense hedge screening just to help add to that buffering a little bit to kind of reduce any potential for impact along the back units of those residences. And with that, the recommendation of staff this evening is for the Planning Commission to adopt Resolution 2021-06. That would be finding this project categorically exempt, this time as an infill development project, and then requesting approval of the development permit type P 20-10 and minor exception 2101 based on the findings and subject to the conditions.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Travis. At this point, I will open public hearing for this item. Stephanie, do we have any public comments?
We do. We have one voicemail.
Perfect.
Let me bring that up.
My name is Deborah Blanco. I am calling in regards to the proposed retail development in Ward 7 located at West Marshall Boulevard and East Street. My husband and I have resided in this wonderful neighborhood for over 30 years, as have many of our neighbors in our immediate area. Within 500 feet of the proposed retail building are many historical homes built in the 1920s. We, along with our neighbors, were attracted to this beautiful, quiet, idyllic neighborhood of well-kept historical homes with tile roofs and tree-lined streets where we can safely walk and bike with our families and pets. My husband and I are opposed to this retail establishment for many reasons. On the southwest corner of West Marshall Boulevard and East Street, which is across the street from the proposed retail space, sits a long abandoned retail center whose mostly boarded up suites have been a magnet for drug trafficking, homeless individuals, trash, and graffiti. Currently, there is a liquor store, a laundromat, and a donut shop that have been the only successful retailers on that corner. The city should be working to fill the existing vacant retail spaces of that shopping center, which has long been dragging down our neighborhood and is an eyesore. The city of San Bernardino does not have the resources necessary, including police, fire, and code enforcement, to maintain the security and stability of our neighborhood. Approximately 3 blocks from this proposed retail project is Marshall Elementary School. There are many parents and children who walk to and from nearby homes to that school. Increased traffic may present additional safety issues for these school children and their families. West Marshall Boulevard has become a thoroughfare for box trucks, tractor trailers, and speeding drivers who take this residential street as a shortcut to avoid the traffic lights on 30th Street. Unlike the successful establishment of the 2 SDX lots, which rest on the northeast and northwest corners of West Marshall Boulevard and East Street, the proposed retail development will not benefit our community. The proposed retail development will have long-term economic consequences as the neighborhood loses its appeal. It will have ripple effects far beyond the immediate intersection and will change our quality of life. This is the wrong project in the wrong place at the wrong time. On behalf of our residents, I encourage you to reject this retail proposal.
Thank you, Stephanie. Do we have the applicant here?
Yes. Hi there. My name is David Church. I am the applicant along with my partner, Carl Wood, and we represent Dollar General in Southern California and develop many projects. And we're the ones who've been working with Travis in the planning department to hopefully bring a successful project to this corner. And again, we're here to answer any questions, address any concerns. I think, after listening to that voicemail, I guess my comment would be, I think we're the ideal type of use that caters to local neighborhoods and local communities. And we provide really a general retail service that I think everybody in the community will benefit from. And hopefully can lead to some redevelopment and help, the health of other retailers in the area. But again, we're excited to be here. We appreciate everything that Travis has done up until now to kind of work with us to make sure we comply with all of the zoning requirements and standards for the city, and look forward to hopefully obtaining your approval and building a successful project.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Church.
Thank you.
So we'll go down from ward to ward. Commissioner Quill, any comments?
Yes, I do. I think I would have to agree with the speaker that called in because I'm a native here of San Bernardino, and I grew up in that neighborhood, and I'm very aware of what changes have happened and so on. A couple of years back, we had a discussion about a donut shop in the area, and there was a lot of opposition to the donut shop because of the people that attracted or whatever the problem was. But to this particular project, I don't know what the hours of operation of Dollar Store is. Can you help me with that?
Yes, so we're the typical store hours are 8 to 10, and that's pretty typical for all stores. There may be an occasional variance depending on a certain jurisdiction, but the typical hours out here would be 8 to 10.
Okay, the layout. Number one, I'm opposed to the project because I've seen what's gone on in that neighborhood, and I do agree there's an empty center right across the street that really needs a lot of attention. And I'm afraid that if we put this in, it's just going to be another problem. But the way the property is laid out and the way your plot plan is laid out with the building up against the street, the two streets, that would be East Street and Marshall Boulevard, you've got a pocket behind there that would allow for vagrants to hang out in there after closing or thereabouts. To me, it looks like kind of a hiding place. And I'm sure if I was a neighbor that backed up to that property, I would not like that property to be vacant, even though there would be lighting. And I'm sure that the police will patrol it as well as they can, but I think it looks like a problem to me. Was there any consideration to putting the building, flipping it around to where you have the front parking area exposed to E Street and Marshall Boulevard?
If I may, Commissioner, we did look at that initially. I know there was, because it's a tight site, there were a few different options that we explored as far as the overall layout. But the key factor that really drove us on this is that transit overlay, because it is not just in the overlay, but immediately across the street from the parking facilities and the bus stop itself. Transit overlay does require, specifically along E Street, that the buildings are pushed up. They actually have a maximum setback that they can have that's of 15 feet. If we were to set it back even to that point, then there would be no usable space behind the building for any parking. So we worked to bring it all the way up. And as I mentioned, really tried to make it, not just your typical retail building in the back, big asphalt lot in the front, but to make it really more of kind of the neighborhood store that you could walk to, similar to some of the older commercial just north of the site on both sides of East Street.
Thank you, Travis. was consideration given to the line of sight at that intersection for cars traveling north and being able to see down Marshall, or cars heading west on Marshall and be able to have a line of sight? Yeah, that corner looks like it's blocked with that building up in the tight in the corner.
Yeah, I mean, Stephanie, can we bring up, let's try maybe that landscaping plan that might show it best. I don't know if we can go back to that. So even though the building is up towards the property line, it is still set back from the actual curb face. So you can see kind of a landscaped area right along the left side, which is the west side of the property, and then about twice that size space on the north side, just with how things laid out. That still does work outside of that visibility triangle that we need to maintain. So we do have that on that line of sight for specifically for the traffic heading west trying to turn south.
Okay. And now that you have this landscaping plan up, what is the issue? What is the problem with putting the building back against the wall? Is it a setback issue?
As I mentioned, one of the specifics of the transit overlay, there are certain areas referred to, there's a certain feature referred to as a build-to line, and some of the streets within the transit overlay do have that imposed on them. And what that does is require that the building is no more than a certain distance back from the property line along that frontage. In this case, the build-to line does front E Street and required a maximum of a 15-foot setback from the frontage. So if you tried to move that back a little bit, there's no, without going against that standard that had been adopted, there's no way of moving that building back all the way to the rear of the property.
Okay. Could there be a variance for that or of that nature?
I mean, as with any development standard in the code, there could be, certainly at the will of the commission. Again, I will say, I think as staff has looked at this, we really felt that, there hasn't been a lot of development in the transit overlay that's really been able to take advantage of those of those features. A lot of things that we've done have been more auto oriented, a lot of drive-through uses and things of that sort. So we really, we saw a project here. We thought that was really a good opportunity to try to put some of those features in as far as building placement, getting that entrance, oriented to the street and so forth.
Okay. Travis, what is the height of the building elevation?
Give me just one moment and I can bring that up.
I remember seeing, I think it was 16 foot or?
To the absolute highest point, kind of those raised portions on the corners, it would be 21 feet.
Oh, 21 feet.
The lower portion of the building, probably sitting somewhere around the 19-foot area.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Flores.
If I may answer, there were a couple of questions that Commissioner Quill had. Travis mentioned the build-to line along E Street. The properties along E Street in some of these areas, the transit district overlay, and the intent of that overlay is to reduce the reliance on vehicles, parking for cars. So the notion is that if you are along, in this particular case, the XBX line, that people would be using that and that they would be more reliant on that rather than parking. As Travis mentioned, when the project originally came in, when we were looking at some concepts, I believe that it showed the parking in the front right at the corner. But we advised the applicant of our transit overlay standards and how we would need the building to be pushed forward. So you have more of a pedestrian feel to that, and that the parking would be in the back. You mentioned the notion about a variance. There would have to be, as you are aware with our variance, we have to make findings of fact, and there have to be special circumstances or conditions, whether it's the size or configuration of the property, its location, those kinds of things. And so because this is a standard lot, and because we were able to provide some design alternatives that would not just meet our development code standards, but also satisfy the development criteria of the applicant to build their building or for their business, we felt that it would be that it would be appropriate for this project here. Again, as the commissioners, it's to your discretion if you want to provide additional direction. But that's really, as you see projects coming up and down E Street, keep in mind that if they are on the transit overlay, that's why you see them up towards the property line and not set back. I hope that provides a little bit of clarification.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Oliver.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Flores, any comments?
Yeah, a couple of comments. I don't necessarily mind the pedestrian-oriented design. I kind of appreciate it, but maybe that's because I'm a planner and that's what we talk about, getting folks out of their cars. I did have a question on the corner wall on E and Marshall. Will that be a blank wall, or will it have like the logo of the company?
So I think I can at least start with the answer on that. As far as signage, I believe the intention is really just to have it focused on the entrance and not on that, say that north side along Marshall. But what we did do, fortunately, it's hard to show all four elevations, but they are typical of each other. What we did do is to make sure all of those walls that did front the street continued that kind of, it didn't leave just the blank space, had that trellis look, had the kind of the client landscaping. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Just to kind of at least try to make the blank wall diminished a little bit and try to create a little more engagement.
Got it. Thank you. If anything, I would recommend for the operator to consider doing some sort of partnership with the school and do a mural. I imagine this development would attract a lot of students going to and from school. And on that note, I'm wondering if there was any consideration on the traffic signal and the pedestrian signal specifically, considering there's a bus line, and I'm not sure what the condition of the pedestrian signal is at this point, but I know it varies around the city.
I can say, fortunately for everyone involved at that intersection, all of those signals were upgraded just a couple years ago, or more than a couple years ago now, when the park and ride facilities were built. So the majority of the streets actually already been improved, and I know, being out there taking pictures yesterday, all of those signals are kind of the newer style, and everything is all new equipment.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Those are all my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Flores. Commissioner Jones, any comments?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Lewis, any comments?
Yes, I do have a comment or two there. One question is, and as I understand, it's not a requirement. Does this facility or the David plan on doing charging stations there? Or is that?
We and again, this is, Travis can help me here. I'm not sure if you typically, as a general rule, we don't provide charging stations on a typical Dollar General project. I will tell you certain jurisdictions, particularly Riverside County does require them. Depending on the size of the building, I believe anything over, I think the trigger might be 10,000 feet. So we've never built one yet. We have a project in San Bernardino or in Riverside County that we're going to be building one. So, we're not opposed to it. I'm not sure if it's something that, we don't have much experience with it, but I'll tell you in theory, I don't know that we're completely opposed to it, other than parking is a little tighter here, so that might be just something that the city would need to, approve or designate, to have those stalls, for a electric vehicle station. So,
Yeah.
If I may, commissioners, as you raised the question, Commissioner Lewis, on the earlier project, I was advised by one of my other team members that the building code does require a number of charging stations, depending on the total number of parking stalls, similar to when you have a certain number of handicap stalls based on the size of the building and those kinds of things. So there's a similar standard that's through our uniform building code that's handled through our plan check process. I don't know what that standard is, but I did receive that message from Harold as that item came up, the question came up earlier, and so we will in the future make that note, and we will talk to our building official in terms of what would the requirement be for a particular project when it's presented to you. So in the future, we would be able to say, okay, there's 2 handicap spaces and there's 1 charging station, or whatever the case may be.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. One other question. Looking at the site plan, that driveway that's off of Marshall Boulevard, is that an electronic gate or something there, or is that just open to anybody to drive down through there? Because I don't notice or see a outlet at the other extreme end or around the building for that. So how is that regulated there? Is it just open and you go behind that structure, which would put you between the structure and the block wall? How is that? What's the plan for that? I don't see anything indicating a electronically open gate or anything like that.
I can say at this point on the plan in front of you this evening, there is no proposed fencing or gates that would enclose that parking lot.
So then it would just basically be open to foot traffic, automobiles making turns or thinking that they could go around that building when there's no outlet back there?
Oh, sorry, go ahead, David.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we do have 2 driveways. The driveway on Marshall does connect and lead to an additional driveway on East Street. So there is an outlet. So there's no dead end parking or that sort of thing, if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, just pull it up a little bit more and I would have saw that, huh?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, okay. All right. But that's not because that gives them access, that driveway. I'm speaking primarily at what looks, because this is it's right up at the street level, being that it's in the transit zone. But I'm concerned about the rear of the building. The rear of the building looks like most of the parking is there.
That is correct. I'm sorry. I guess I'm not understanding exactly what the question is.
Okay. So if that's all open, I get it now. So is it safe to say that the entrance or a entrance to this facility is going to be there's going to be a east and west entrance to this building? Because if people are parking all around the back there, how does that work?
So if we can go back to the site plan, if possible. Yeah, this one's perfect.
Yeah.
So as we mentioned, because the building has been pushed up to the street, you do have kind of a double-sided parking aisle on the south side, directly fronting E Street. I know on this plan it's maybe a little hard to see the driveway on E just because of the tree canopies that are obstructing it. And then there is more parking along the back side, directly fronting the building. But yes, I think what you're saying is correct. The entrance does not directly front the parking because we were trying to find that balance with it being in the transit area of trying to get the engagement to the street a little more. So we moved it. Originally, they had the building exactly flipped from this and had the parking on the southeast corner, but we moved it to the southwest so that it could kind of serve both the parking area and the pedestrian access. If we had left it the other way, then we would have nothing but the rear of the building on the street, which kind of would negate a lot of the design improvements that we did.
Right, I see that. So then on the East Street side, there's no actual, I see it looks like it's maybe an entrance on the south side, but on the East Street side, there's no actual entrance into the facility there.
Well, I mean, it's on that southwest corner. It's kind of where that diagonal cut is on the building.
Yes.
So it is fronting the East Street. It's just not centered along the wall. That just goes with the layouts that this operator has. Their entrances are kind of located more towards the corners of the building. But it does still front there, and there's still going to be that signage and that kind of more prominent entry. It is, you can come right off the sidewalk on E.
Right, I see that. And then that partition wall that goes along, that's what separates that parcel from residents, yes?
On the right side of this image, the east side of the property, yes.
Yes, and that wall, I saw that there's currently an 8-foot wall there that's going to be brought down. Is that?
The walls that are there currently are kind of a mix of heights. There's a lot of old block. There's some extensions that people have done over time. What we've conditioned with this project, we do have a standard in our code when commercial abuts residential to do a minimum of 6 feet. But we looked at other similar projects that we've done that backed up to residential and kind of going with what the commission had recommended previously and went ahead and asked for an 8-foot wall. I have discussed that with the applicant, and they're in agreement with that. And then, as I mentioned specifically on the landscaping plan, you'll have the 8-foot wall, and then on the inside of that, along that parking area, there's kind of more dense hedging that we're going to do to create even more of a buffer there. So you kind of have a 2-layer buffer that will block some of that traffic and any noise that may come from.
I see. All right, thank you. That'll be all.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Commissioner Chang, any comments?
Sorry. I have mixed feelings about this project. I know this neighborhood and this corner pretty well. The plaza, the existing shopping plaza across the street from this particular project is in need of new retail business moving in desperately. It is in really bad shape. It does have a lot of unwanted activities occurring at night. I just put it that way. So I do think that it's a risk. And on the other side of this end of the spectrum, in that a new project, a new development project, could also contribute and revitalize that corner and clean it up. It is very messy across the street. Yeah. So I will approve this project. Thank you. Even though I'm ambivalent about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chang.
Sorry, one more question. I forgot to ask. To the applicant, Mr. Church, what your I read the packet. I did not find in the packet. Perhaps it is in there. In that, will you guys be providing any security surveillance system 24/7?
So again, they're only open till 10 o'clock at night. So I don't know exactly, give or take an hour from the time that the store closes before the last employees have left. I do know they definitely have in-store security that each and every store has. And then just depending on the neighborhoods, they have different layers of security. And that's something that, they look at very carefully. We're not involved in that. They operate their stores and run their stores, that being Dollar General. But I do know that each and every store is equipped with an interior security system.
Right.
And that's kind of monitored, certainly monitored, 24/7 if somebody were to break into the store or something at night or something along those lines.
And this property is not fenced, right? It has no physical fence protection, right?
Correct.
And no gates, right? So this corner of this neighborhood, after dark, after 10 p.m., you get a lot of homeless people, and they will go back to the streets and parking lots. I've seen them. Okay, so I think that's the biggest concern to the neighborhood. So having you installing security cameras on the exterior walls of the buildings, looking at the parking lots, I think it will bring a lot of comfort to the residents of the neighborhood, and it will help. Somebody will go back there, I guarantee you. Yeah.
Well, we could certainly bring that to their attention and let them know that, look, we've got to look at, just how to manage and operate this store and take that security risk into play and, figure out a good solution for them that they're, the good news is I would think that they've encountered so many different kinds of scenarios that hopefully they have, the last thing they want to have is a store that's detracted from customers because of any kind of loitering or, that sort of thing. So I do know that it's top of mind, and they have a whole loss prevention program that's what those folks' jobs are. So we'll be happy to bring that to their attention and hopefully come up with some kind of, reasonable solution that'll, make sure that this store is successful.
Right. And, understand that exterior outdoor parking for parking lots per code is only 1 foot candle after dark. Perhaps install motion sensor lighting on the walls and security camera that records 24/7 after, maybe just schedule it between 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. That way on the recording to your CCTV, those are pretty low cost, low budget hardware and software. And I just think that having those provisions would deter unwanted illegal activities occurring, because that corner, it gets really hairy after dark. Very hairy. Yeah. Thank you. That's all.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chang. At this point, I do actually have to leave the meeting, so I will transfer the reins over to Commissioner Jones, and he will continue the meeting. I did have a few comments on this, and Stephanie will actually read those comments for me. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Are there any other comments from the commissioners or from the public that we needed to address?
Vice Chair, did you want me to go ahead and read in some of the comments from Chair Sanchez?
Yes, let's go ahead and do that.
She did have a question regarding security cameras, which I think has already been addressed. What is the main cost for the reduction of off-street parking was one of her questions. And of course, when would the project start?
Okay, is the applicant able to address any of the chairwoman's concerns?
So the first question I wasn't sure on about the reduction of parking in terms of the cost of that. I do, in terms of starting, we obviously kind of the next steps, assuming we were to be approved, we would then go into our full design of all of our plans. We've done pretty extensive design to get to this point. But it's really the permitting process. We would think or hope that we could start sometime August, September of this year if things went well in terms of, completing our plans, getting them into the building department, engineering department, and working through the permitting process. The other question you had, I'm not sure I understood that. So if you don't mind asking that again.
And this one might be directed more towards Travis.
Yeah, can you just repeat it?
What is the main cause for the reduction of off-street parking?
So as we've kind of gone into a little bit already, the biggest thing is the location within that transit overlay, really trying to shift the focus a little bit on how we access this property. There's a few layers to it. There's that, and because the property does abut the residential, we wanted to work a little bit more to kind of enhance that buffered area back there. Typically, there wouldn't be a real setback requirement on that rear side, but because we abut the residential, we do have that area. That reduced part of the site, and we felt it was a little bit of a kind of a trade-off to create a little bit more distancing from those, those potentially sensitive uses by reducing, what was, I think, ultimately only 9% of the parking. And given those other means to access the site, we felt that wasn't going to be to the detriment of the project.
Those were all of her comments.
Perfect. Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and close public comments, and I'll make a motion to approve agenda item number 4. Do we have a second?
I second.
Stephanie, can we please have a vote roll call, please?
Commissioner Quill? I'm sorry, you're muted, Commissioner Quill. You're still on mute.
Am I okay now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not in favor of this project, no.
Okay. Commissioner Flores?
Yes.
Vice Chair Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
No.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
Okay, that is a 3-2 vote, in 3 votes in favor of the project.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 5.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Church. Moving on to agenda item number 5. Let's go ahead and get started with the staff report, please.
Good evening, commissioners. Item number 5 is subdivision 20-05 for tentative parcel map 20309 and conditional use permit 20-13. Next slide, please. Thank you, Stephanie. The proposed project is to subdivide a parcel that is comprised of approximately 3.50 acres into 3 parcels. Parcel 1 would be approximately 1.25 acres and will contain a service station with a convenience store. The convenience store is approximately 4,650 square feet. And the proposal is to also have a ABC Type 20 license for off-sale beer and wine with 6 fueling pumps, islands, and 12 fueling stations. Parcel number 2 would be approximately 1.02 acres, and it will consist of a restaurant with drive-through, approximately 3,000 square feet. And parcel number 3 will be 1.13 acres with a restaurant with drive-through, approximately 2,000 square feet. The project site is located on the southeast corner of West Redlands Boulevard and South Hunts Lane within the Commercial Regional Tri-City Club CR3 zone. Next slide. Thank you, Stephanie. Here's an aerial map of the site. The site currently right now is vacant. It is a remnant vacant property within the within that corner and that area as well. To the east of the property, you have a Motel 6, Hotel 6, as well as administrative offices for Loma Linda. To the north of that property, you have the 10 freeway and a combination of retail and restaurant uses, as well as some administrative office types of uses. To the west of that property, it actually abuts the city of Colton. And within the city of Colton, you have a truck stop and a combination of restaurants, as well as other types of transportation uses. And then to the south of that, you have some administrative offices in combination with some retail types of uses. Next slide, please. The property is zone commercial regional 3. The property is intended for a diversity of regional services and is bound to the north, south, and east by the same zone. However, to the west, it is bound by the city of Colton, and the city of Colton's zone designation is light industrial within that zone classification. Next slide, please. As mentioned in prior slides, the Commercial Regional Tri-City Club is intended to permit a diversity of regional service uses, such as retail, commercial, and restaurants, as what is being proposed by our current project. As part of the project, they are going to do a subdivision, and they're going to subdivide the property into 3 parcels. Again, it's going to consist of a gas station with the convenience store to include the sale of beer and wine, which is a type 20 license on parcel 1. And then it's going to have 2 restaurants with drive-thrus on their own individual parcels. The police department did review the proposal for the ABC license. The project site is located within Census Tract 71.10. The Department of Alcohol and Beverage Control allows for a maximum of 3 off-sale licenses within this census tract. Currently, right now, there are no existing and active off-sale licenses. Therefore, there is no overconcentration, and a public convenience and necessity letter was not required because there is currently no overconcentration of the site. The police department in their review had no objections as it relates to the issuance of the ABC license. Next slide, please. This is the existing site looking from West Redlands Boulevard. Next slide, please, Stephanie. Thank you. This is the existing site looking from South Hunts Lane. Next slide. Thank you. So for the subdivision, it's a tentative parcel map, as I mentioned, 20309. Parcel 1 will consist of 1.25 acres, which is approximately 54,348 square feet. Parcel 1 will contain the gas station with the convenience store and the 6 pump islands. Parcel number 2 is approximately 1.02 acres, 44,502 square feet, and it will contain a drive-through of 3,000 square feet. And then parcel number 3 is 1.13 acres, approximately 4,203 square feet, and it will contain the second drive-through with 2,000 square feet. Next slide, Stephanie. Thank you so much. So for the site plan, as you can see, it has the 7-Eleven, and then consecutive behind that, it's also going to have the 2 drive-through restaurants. Each of the, there's going to be a driveway located on West Redlands, and then there's going to be 2 driveways located on South Hunts Lane that will service the 2 restaurants that are currently there. The one on Redlands will service the convenience store. However, even though they have their own individual driveways, the internal circulation is set up so that the vehicles can use all 3 driveways and as well use all the parking area that is being provided for all these combined uses. Next one, please. Here we have an architectural rendering. as it relates to the design of the proposed drive-throughs. As you can see, they're going to incorporate a lot of vertical and horizontal imagery, so that way it breaks up the walls. It's going to be a lot of more wood-like materials with some metal and cement plasters. So kind of give it a more modern type of look that we're kind of seeing across all our current development. Next slide, please. For the landscaping, they're going to do a lot of buffering, not only between the drive aisles to just create a lot of sense of space in between throughout the whole site. They're also going to provide colorful, drought-tolerant types of plants, accent trees. The trees are going to be at minimum 24-inch box trees. They can vary in height. They can go a little bit higher than that. Some shrubs, decomposed granite, and mulch. They will have a irrigation system set out throughout the whole site, so that way you're never going to have a situation where the plants, aren't maintained and are not kept alive, and you don't lose that colorful palette that they're going to be creating. Next slide, please. And with that, we recommend that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2021-007, finding the project categorically exempt pursuant to Section 15332 for infill development projects in accordance to the California Environmental Quality Act, and approve subdivision 20-05 for tentative parcel map 20309 and conditional use permit 20-05 based on findings of fact and subject to the recommended conditions of approval. I'm here for any questions. The applicant is also here to answer any questions that you may have as well.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. At this time, we're going to go ahead and open up public comments. Is there any members of the public wishing to comment on agenda item number 5? We'll go ahead and open public comments. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on agenda item number 5? Do we have any public comments on the record for this?
We do not.
Okay. All right. Does the commission have any questions for staff or the applicant for agenda item number 5? Commissioner Flores, please go ahead.
Thank you. I guess one question, looking back at the design, or is there a specific reason why there's so much parking on the back behind the 2 restaurants, or is that just what's required, or they're just trying to make the use of all that land?
They were trying to, it was a combination of both. They were trying to meet the requirement. They actually exceeded that expectation, but also they were trying to make sure they're able to use all the space. And also the configuration was not really functioning at that point. Jennifer, she may have a little bit more input, or even the architecture. Would you be able to add a little bit more to what I gave to Commissioner Flores?
Sure, I'll go ahead and defer to Grant Ross, the applicant, on that. He'll be able to provide additional details. Thanks.
This is Grant. If I could, our office is about a mile from this location. And, if you ever go to the McDonald's or the Popeyes or the Burger King right next to this location, parking is severely inadequate. And so, Grant can follow on, but, we definitely wanted to make sure that this was overparked, and that parking is not going to become, a problem, and that, we're respectful of the neighboring uses. We wouldn't want, people to be using the Motel 6 parking lot, or, there's no off-street parking right around there. But, parking is a concern around that area. It is a hot spot for tourists, meaning tourists traveling, people that get off on Waterman and utilize those QSRs and gas stations. So that was one of the reasons.
Perfect.
Yeah, just to echo what Jonathan said, and just giving the opportunity to thank staff for all the hard work and through the process. It's been an absolute pleasure working in the city of San Bernardino. We've worked with all the adjacent cities. First project here, we're eager to take on more projects. It's been an absolute pleasure. Here to address anything. Jonathan touched on that parking question, but here to answer anything. But again, thanks again for the staff and all the support we've had through the process.
Commissioner Flores, I'm not sure if you wanted me to add a little bit more to that, or
No, that's sufficient. Thank you. My second question, I didn't see, will any EV charging stations be included? I recall that last meeting, a Chevron redevelopment had included EV charging. And given the amount of parking and the fueling use, I think it'd be perfectly reasonable to ask for EV charging.
Yeah, so in terms, I know 7-Eleven in general is looking at that business model and expanding that service line. So we are looking at that, and as it relates to the other drive-throughs and why you don't see it on the plan, it's just because we've designed the project the way that we've designed it, but wanted some flexibility for individual users, whether it be a Dutch Brothers and their brand from Oregon that has been, looking to open up new operations. The reason you don't see it on some of those drive-throughs and on the current side is just to maintain the flexibility where it sits today. But certainly that's something that we've kind of highlighted once we're able to find tenancy for the project, and then where we would place that and fulfill that need, which we agree is something in the area that people want to see. So,
thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Flores. You raised some very good points. Does any other commissioners have any other questions? Commissioner Lewis, go ahead.
Yes. Looking at the site plan there, and I'm not able to make out that. Do we have what's the width of the sidewalk on the Hunt side?
so let me pull that information for you. Sorry about that. Yeah, so your typical width is going to be, I'm showing it's going to be a 6-foot width there at the sidewalk there, and you're asking for the one on Redlands Boulevard, correct?
No, I was actually referring to the one on Hunts.
On Hunts Lane. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah,
that would be that should be around a 4 to 6 foot width. Are you able to chime into that, either Ross
Commissioner Lewis, our standard for sidewalks is a 6 foot wide sidewalk. So when we condition the project, we condition them to our standards, and they meet our standards usually when they submit their plans.
Then I can pretty much also assume that all the surrounding the entire project there, those are all ADA compliant at the corners, in and off of the sidewalk into the parking structure.
Yes.
Cannot condition the project beyond its boundary, but within the boundary of the project itself, the sidewalk will be following the city standards and will be ADA compliant. Yes, sir.
And as it relates to the on-site, they are required to meet building code requirements as it relates to ADA accessibility and ADA improvements. So that will be part of the project.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you, Alex.
No problem.
Thank you. Were there any other additional comments or questions for the commission or staff at this time? Okay, we're going to close public comments. And I will make a motion to approve agenda item number 5. Do we have a second?
Second.
Can we please have a vote roll call, Stephanie?
Commissioner Quill? Commissioner Quill?
I believe you're muted.
I keep muting myself. Yes, I approve it. Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores?
Yes.
Vice Chair Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
The item is approved.
Thank you so much, and congratulations to the applicants. Thank you for your continued support with the city, and we look forward to working with you moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very
Nice
much.
project.
Moving on, Planning Commission reports and announcements. Does the commission have any reports or announcements that they would like to share at this time? I see none. I would like to welcome some of our newest commissioners, Commissioner Lewis, representing the 7th Ward. We're glad to have you on the team, and you have the floor. Tell us your story really quickly if you can.
Oh, well, I can't tell my story real quickly, but I'll try. No, I have a nominal amount of knowledge as far as building and safety. I've been in the construction business now for about 35 years. I've had numerous occasions to work with the city on various different projects. And it's just an honor to now serve in this capacity to see if we can bring San Bernardino up to the standards that I know it can be. It's a beautiful city. We got a lot of work to do, and I'm up for the battle there.
Excellent. We look forward to having you, Commissioner Lewis, and the breadth of experience that you bring to the commission. Welcome to the team.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
I'd like to welcome Commissioner Lewis and tell you that Best Krieger and my law firm, we put out these annual public integrity guides that kind of give you a very short overview of the Brown Act, the Political Reform Act, Form 700s, and those kinds of things. Stephanie Sanchez has a number of copies of those, and she will work with you to get one of those in your hands so that you can review it. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. Stephanie has my contact information.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you.
All right. Do we have a director's report for this meeting?
Yes, commissioners. I just wanted to announce that at the next city council meeting on the 17th, we have an item on the agenda where we are going to launch or unveil the web page for our general plan effort. So we will we'll introduce it, kind of navigate through it to show the community how to get on there and follow the process that comes along. Also, as you may know, that we had reached out to see your availability on the 23rd of this month. In a couple of weeks, we will be coming back to the Planning Commission as a special meeting. So we will provide that same presentation to you. So we will provide you with a brief little staff report, and then we will provide you with that presentation as well, so you can see how the website, its intent, what it's going to contain. I will point out that it's going to be an evolving web page, so it'll be updated regularly as we make our way through the process, and it'll also include some educational items so that you are well informed in terms of what's being presented before you as it relates to the general plan and the development code, as well as the downtown specific plan. So I just wanted to let you know that that's so you can look at the council agenda or the meeting next Wednesday, or you can hold tight a week later and see it as part of the special meeting. That's all that I have. I believe Stephanie has a little presentation that she'd like to provide to you. Really excited, some good work that she's recently completed. Stephanie?
Thank you, Oliver. Hi, commissioners. So tonight I wanted to be able to share with you, as part of my new role in economic development, part of my focus is to help make information more accessible to the public. So with our development projects, new builds going on in the city, the items that we've been bringing to you at Planning Commission are all now accessible online for the public to view in a different way. Some of you may remember that we used to have a major projects list where we would list out all of our projects, the statuses when they went to Planning Commission, and a continued status of what was going on with those. For our newer members, this was a very tedious list that staff had to maintain. So we have worked on a more easily accessible way of getting the information. So I'd like to share that with you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And so we've made the information accessible on our website. So this is our homepage. Most of you are very familiar with this. By going to our department page, under navigation, you'll notice that we now have a development projects tab. You can click on that tab, and that is dedicated to a story map that we've developed that will illustrate all of the development projects, major development projects that are happening here in the city. So like I said, items that have gone to Planning Commission, that this really focuses on the new ground up development. So to view the full size, we'll click on this link. That way I can show you a little bit better. But we've designed this so that it highlights individual projects. You can click on those projects and it'll give you an overview of the city. It has individual tabs for different projects. Over here on the left, you'll notice that we've highlighted several projects that have already gone to Planning Commission. So to give you an idea, we recently had the 5th Street Gateway project go to Planning Commission. If you click on that project, it brings up the image associated. Can we please let the record reflect that Commissioner Morales has now joined the meeting? So by using this map, you can click on that image. It brings up, I will typically use a rendering of the project. That way it will illustrate what that project is going to look like. It'll have information that has been pulled from the staff report. So it'll tell you exactly where it's at, what ward it's in, who to contact if you have questions, when it was approved at Planning Commission. There are others that have also been approved by council, so we'll list that date as well. And we'll give the project summary of what the project encompasses. At the bottom, we'll always list the Planning Commission link and or the council link. That way, members of the public can go to that meeting and look at the entire staff report and even look at the video, the broadcast from that meeting. So similarly to the map on this side, if you were to click on one of these tabs, it'll automatically bring up that project for you to take a look at. It is an interactive map, so you can zoom in to different areas. So if you were to go back to your home page here, whatever area you're in, that's what this will focus on. I have also done separate tabs. So the city development will highlight all of our city development, but we've also broken it out by housing developments and also commercial and industrial developments. So you can really just look at what you're interested in, focus in on different projects. So anybody from the public is able to go in and use this. It is a public map. It's a great way for the constituents to stay updated on either what's going on in their ward, what's going on in different areas. And this is a tool that all of the commissioners can use to communicate those projects to the public. So we are really excited to be able to bring this out to the public now and make it live. It has been a few months in the works. So if you have any questions, I can answer them. We are trying to get more of the public geared towards this so that they can keep track of different projects, but it's also in an effort to get that information out to the public as far as that transparency that we try to reflect to our constituents. So this is one of the ways that we're trying to do that.
Thank you. I like the entire concept of how it is on a map, because I see people all the time in my ward that ask me, what's this going on here? What's going on there? And constantly have to say, well, what's the cross street? What area is it in? I can now just pull up the map and say, which one is it? This is all that's going on. Share that information with them. So I really like this interactive map with the proposed projects that are currently pending in the city. I think you guys did a really good job on that. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
I agree. Looks great.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I really appreciate that information.
One other thing I would like to share with the commission, one more thing that we've worked on here in the department is we've started a new series on IEMG that'll air on Channel 3 and we'll make it available on the website. But based on the projects that go to Planning Commission and the new development that you'll see here on the map, this new series is designed to highlight the new development, the ground up development. So not only do we have the story map for the public to access, but we also have segments, video segments that will air for people to be made aware of these different projects. So we are trying to hit different ways of communicating to the public, whether it be online, social media, through the public access channel. We're trying to hit all those different avenues to really get that information out there. So I do have a video for the 5th Street Gateway project if the commission would like to see one of the first ones in the series.
Sure.
Okay. Absolutely.
Let me bring this up. And I'm going to show a video. Give me one moment.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Sanchez with Community and Economic Development, and I'm here to give you the latest news on building San Bernardino. We are excited to announce the 5th Street Gateway project, located just off the 215 freeway on West 5th Street between North G and H Street. The 5th Street Gateway project will be comprised of 3 restaurants with drive-through access and a service station with a 24-hour 7-Eleven convenience store. This project is intended to capitalize on the city's commercial, transportation, and locational strengths, which has become a major economic driver within the city. Development of the site will enhance the aesthetics of one of the city's major gateways. The architectural design ensures a dynamic and vibrant environment, creating a more welcoming entrance to the city's downtown area. Want more information on the project and others coming up? There are 2 ways. Visit our Community and Economic Development page and click on Development Projects, or you can sign up for notifications for the city's community newsletter through the City Manager's page. Once again, I'm Stephanie Sanchez. Thank you for watching the latest news on Building San Bernardino.
I like it.
Great job, Steph.
I like the music you picked, Stefan. Did you pick the music? That's pretty cool.
I didn't pick the music, but IEMG does amazing work on these videos, and they're the ones that did the music, they did the editing, so props to them for picking that.
Yeah, bring us to the to current age. That's great. Lovely.
Stephanie, that is really terrific, and I really appreciate that because this is something that the Chamber of Commerce has been asking for a long time. Is there a way to send that out? I'm not real computer savvy, but is there a way that I can send this out to our Chamber of Commerce members and let them know this is available?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can send out even to the commission, I can send out the YouTube link on the IEMG channel. That way you can share it.
That'd be great.
Okay. Can you send that a link directly to me to where I can forward it to the chamber?
Absolutely.
Talk to them?
Mm-hmm.
I'd appreciate that a lot.
Yeah,
Thank you.
not a problem. I'll get that sent out to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Steph, can you also include a link to the development projects tab from the website in that email? And then, of course, just a reminder to BCC everybody if you can, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And one other thing in regards to the new website that was set, if possible in the future, we don't necessarily need it, but I was thinking if we can possibly just get a custom domain name specifically to highlight the projects, just like how the video series was called Building San Bernardino. If we can create like a specific domain name that says go to buildingsb.com if you want to check out like all the projects that are pending within the city or proposed for future development. That way people don't have to necessarily get lost in the main San Bernardino website. If we could have just like sort of, I don't want to say like a subdomain, but like maybe like a custom domain or that we can use to sort of pass around and have the general public look at. But I mean, other than that, I think it's perfect. I like it. That's actually very innovative. So
Thank you. One thing I can do to make it easier is I can create what's called a quick link. So it's just a real short link that goes directly to that page. So the page may not be necessarily named that, but the quick link will be easy for the public to use and it'll direct them right to that.
okay, that should be fine too.
Okay. Thank you all.
Stephanie, is a quick link like an app or something? Or
No, a quick link is something that we can designate instead of having a really long web page. So right
Okay.
now, the link for it would be the city website / this, and this. A
Okay.
quick link would really just be sbdevelopmentprojects.com, and
Okay,
it
great.
gears them right to that.
All right, thank you.
We're sounding like the progressive commercial now. Okay, now we're going to open a PDF. Who wants to do that?
Deb, can you include me on that email, please?
Absolutely.
Well, I believe we are all set. I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
May I ask a few questions?
Oh, absolutely. My apologies, Commissioner. Yes, please. Go ahead.
I spoke with Stephanie about my questions this afternoon over the phone. After being on the Planning Commission for the past 2 years, I reached out to a number of other planning commissioners in other cities in the country, as well as economic development professionals. Just for my self-education purpose, this is regarding. I'll read the questions here, and basically, I'm just understand that our town has incentives to attract enterprises, or no? No, Oliver shaking his head. No,
No, we don't.
Okay, God, thank you. Yeah, and also I'm just curious, does our economic development department have a performance agreement with business owners and enterprises, and that will record and say and assess benefits that they can afford or provide to our town, and we can track the performances and those tracking information, the data over the years, then we can make policies or change policies that implement through time. You know, so.
At this time, we don't have those such agreements.
Okay. And would it be a good idea, because from my understanding and conversations with a number of towns and the planning and economic development departments, number of towns, those towns have this performance agreement, and they say it's worked great for them. And for example, the contribution benefit to the town, it could vary. Say, Commissioner Forrest brought up to the General Dollar Store, how about having the school children come over and paint a wall mural? That's a contribution in itself. It's small, right? It's beautifying the streetscape idea, and that's a good idea. And another example, can the business stay in our town, say 10 years, 15 years, instead of just come in for 2 years and 3 years and leave, for example? And the whole idea is about generating revenue, understandably, and that track that the cost and benefits, and that the cost versus the benefits, and to ensure a strong return on investment for the taxpayers of this town.
If I may, Mike Huntley might want to add to this, but if I may take that first stab, back in the good old days when we had redevelopment. And that's kind of to your first question regarding incentives.
Yeah.
You may have heard where there would be a project in a city, there would be a city-owned property, there would be a disposition agreement that was made, and you may have heard of the properties that were sold for $1 or below appraised price.
I never heard that, but I believe you. Okay.
That was something that was regular. And so what we would do as an agency, and I could say this because I did this numerous times for cities, is we would do exactly what you're saying. Well, okay, what is the trade-off? Well, there used to be a thing called a 33433 report, where we would identify the city is going to contribute X amount by donating a portion of the land or reducing the cost, providing incentives for tenant improvements or maybe some construction costs or those kinds of things. We'd create a laundry list of things that the city was going to contribute either monetarily or in kind. So there would be a number attached to that. And so in return, the development agreement would say that the applicant agrees to hire so many employees, generate so much revenue and sales tax, that the home prices would be at a certain level, rental prices would be at a certain income level. And those were things that you could monitor because we would have those development agreements in place and they were tied to, and the key here, and Albert may jump in, there's always a nexus for conditions that we add to a project. And so a suggestion was made earlier about, okay, can we condition a project to paint a mural? It's like, well, okay, what is there a tangible nexus or return for that? We're asking an applicant, a developer, a property owner to do something above and beyond what we would normally require. But that was usually an exchange for something. We're going to provide you greater density, more square footage, whatever the case is, in exchange because the city wants to get those added sales tax or whatever the case is. And so some of these items that you're suggesting, yes, there are no more practices. Again, I believe California is maybe one of the only states that has eliminated redevelopment law.
Okay.
Redevelopment still exists in a lot of states across the country. And so if you're speaking to your colleagues from some of our neighboring states or whatever, they may have well, this is what we do. This is how we do it in New York or New Jersey or whatever the case is.
Right.
Well, that's nice that you're in New York and New Jersey, but we can't do that here in California.
Got it.
And so that's so although there's been a lot of commentary about the elimination of redevelopment, this is one of the things that really changed the dynamics of development in the state of California throughout. All cities are put in the same same scenario, and so I know of recent we've been hearing a lot about community benefits agreements and some of these other participation agreements and those kinds of things. We have to be careful because it has to be tied to there's got to be a tangible connection to what we're requiring and that there's going to be return and that the city is investing something into it as well.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you, Oliver, for the explanation. I really appreciate that, the education, and understand it better. And you answered my question. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And I'm far enough from Michael. So
I understand that I hear one thing, but I'm not an expert on this. So I ask the question. And it's all goes back to being educated. Mm-hmm. Just because one person says this shoe size fit, it doesn't mean it fit us.
Right.
One size doesn't fit all, basically.
Right. That is correct.
And just if I could also just chime in as well. So, Oliver's done a really good job of covering a lot of this, but like Oliver said, in 2012, the state of California, in their infinite wisdom, decided to wipe out redevelopment statewide as a way to solve their own budget problems. Right. So with that, cities have been trying to rebuild its economic development activities. So when you ask us who's currently doing that for the city, I'll tell you that 1/5 of my time is spent doing it. And then with Stephanie, about 1/3 of her time is done working on economic development. The city really needs to spend more time doing business attraction, business retention, getting out in the city, trying to maintain businesses here, not having to move someplace else. Or maybe move to some of those places outside of the state. They're enticing them with those things Oliver was talking about to leave the state, right, as an example. The other thing is marketing the city and telling the city story. I know that Commissioner Lewis, I believe, made a comment a little earlier about, the city and growth and quality development within the city too. And really, at the end of the day, it's our job, not just Stephanie and I, not just my staff, but it's the entire community, including the planning commissioners. We need to, tell the story about San Bernardino, talk about what's happening in this city, talk about the growth, talk about the opportunities that we have that other cities don't have. And we all need to work together as a team to do that. One of the things that Stephanie and I are going to work on in this coming year is actually working more on marketing material for the city and telling that story. Stephanie's already starting to do that through our interactive maps, but we want to go beyond that, beyond just our community. We want to go outside of the area and really promote and market the city. So we will be working on marketing material. As that unfolds, we'll share that with the Planning Commission, of course, with City Council too, and the community. And if there's things that you see that we need to focus on too in regards to marketing the city, things you think that are assets that maybe we didn't see, I'll turn to you and ask you for your assistance and insight on things that you think might be beneficial for us to market the city. So with that, I'll stop right there. But there's, we could sit here for hours and talk about this, but at the end of the day, I think we all need to be on the same page, telling that story and really encouraging quality development within our city.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Oliver. I appreciate it. You answered my question, so thank you. I'm good.
Thank you. Does the commission have any other questions or comments before we adjourn? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I second it.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Chang, and I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. I'll see you guys at the next meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody.
Thank
you.